super excited for this episode of Minted. We have Jeff Danley with us, the Director of Innovation at VMLY&R, one of the largest agencies in the world, helping consult largest brands across go-to-market marketing strategies, as well as innovating in Web3, the Metaverse. And Jeff is the leader of that. Jeff is, helping work with some of these national brands here in the US on their gaming strategy, their esports strategy, and really getting them into the future. And super fun fact, Jeff actually built the patent for the mobile hotspot back in 2001. So talk about a leader in technology. So we're super excited. Jeff, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited to chat with you today.
Well, let's dive into this. So, obviously the goal is to bridge the gap between the centralized and the decentralized. So talking about businesses that are operating in the centralized world, the Web2, which is the standard business as America is thought of. And then, Web3, which is this decentralized, autonomous, anonymous platforms with people operating. And, we're seeing these worlds converge together. And I think you live it in your day-to-day of seeing that combined. So let's start, Jeff, with, talk a little bit about how did you get into Web3? How did you get into this decentralized world?
Yeah, for sure. So I think I'm centralized, right? That's the world I'm operating in my day-to-day job at VMLY&R is we're centralized. However, looking at these Web3 spaces and all of the opportunities presented by Web3 technology, NFTs, Metaverse, all of that, as we create strategies for our brand clients, we've got to look at what types of experiences do they want to create for their customers. And there's a lot of exciting opportunities now with Web3 technology, and the level of customer engagement, I think, is just accelerating. And, especially when we start looking at really immersive experiences such as the Metaverse. We have to help our clients navigate their way into that space, right? It's a lot of those Metaverse portals really started as gaming portals, right? So you think about something like Roblox, right? Or Decentraland. And I would say a year ago, most people viewed those as games, and it was only for gamers. And now you see brands like the NFL and Nike, and they're starting to embrace these Metaverse portals, and it's really just accelerated significantly. So we're trying to help our brands understand first, what is this new space and what are the opportunities that are presented? And then, how do they get there? Why do they want to go into that space? And what's their value add to that ecosystem?
That's awesome. Well, I think we'll definitely dive deeper into hearing and learning how you got to there. So, I mean, obviously the foundation of this is blockchain and crypto and the NFTs. We'll dive into NFTs. When did you first learn about NFTs or crypto? How'd that come about for you personally?
Yeah, it was 2013. One of the earlier waves, I guess, bull runs of Bitcoin, and it was really hot in the news. Lots of discussion amongst mostly those of us in the tech space. And I was just trying to understand blockchain technology. I really had no idea. It was completely new to me, and I just decided, what better way to learn about it than to just buy some cryptocurrency. So threw some money into Bitcoin, and I'm really happy that I did. I'm even more happy that I never sold any of it. So sitting on all of that, and it's just a really exciting space. From a technology perspective, blockchain really presents some interesting opportunities, and it's an enabling technology that we've heard about for years, that blockchain can really revolutionize a lot of different industries. And but it's very technical, right? It's even difficult for me to explain to some people. Like, it took me a while to understand it so that I could explain it. But the challenge I run into most frequently is when I say the term blockchain, what other people hear is Bitcoin, and we're just now starting to get past that. And I think NFTs are really helping with that, because it's it's this use case that leverages blockchain technology and smart contracts. And I think that's one of the reasons we're really seeing this accelerated adoption of NFTs. And I think the challenge I'm facing now is when I discuss NFTs with someone, what is it? What is an NFT, right? Is it it's a picture of a monkey? Like, why do I want a picture of a monkey on my profile? But it can be so much more than that, right? There's a lot of code that can go into the smart contracts, and that NFT can unlock access to other things, right? They can be tied into loyalty programs and whatnot. So anyway, I know I'm kind of
No,
diverted.
you're diving deep through the blockchain and talking about the utility of NFTs. So I mean, you're an early adopter. I mean, I think everyone that we've had so far on the podcast, I think the earliest Audrey joined in 2016, and then the former guys, they were in like 2019. I mean, so you've been in it for almost a decade now. You've seen this evolve so quickly. So when did you really start to see the change of, oh, like, okay, you bought this in 2013. When did you know that it was going to stick around? Or did you know when you bought in 2013, you're like, this makes so much sense that it's going to stick?
I had no idea when I bought it. I mean, in hindsight, it was a lottery ticket, I mean, honestly, I bought Bitcoin to learn about cryptocurrency and to learn about blockchain. And it was just, it was a risk, I guess I was willing to take at the time. And when I think when I really realized that it was here to stay was around 2017, 2018 at the peak of the last bull market. And I was doing some research, and if you look at Plan B's, their cycle chart, right? And you look at the cycles of Bitcoin, and once you understand the halving cycles with Bitcoin and look at the performance charts and what happens in between each of those cycles, like it clicks, right? And you see that it's programmed into the code, right? The scarcity, Bitcoin gets more scarce between each of those cycles, and demand has continued to go up, and we've seen that in this cycle. And I think there's been definitely some more challenges, with regulation in China and everything that's going on, domestically here in the US with regulation and mining and some of the scrutiny and Elon's tweets, or whomever's tweeting, from one day to another. It's been pretty turbulent for Bitcoin right now. But anyway, yeah, once you understand the halving cycles and start looking at those charts, that's when it clicked for me. And that's why when there was a big sell-off at the beginning of 2018, and Bitcoin crashed, everybody's freaking out. Like, I don't know. I had no plan to sell it at that time. I've got no plan to sell it right now, right? I don't know. I might not ever sell it. So, markets are up, markets are down. It doesn't really affect me one way or another right now.
Yeah, because the actual utilization of what blockchain is and then what Bitcoin does on the blockchain is like it will be part of the future, because that's how businesses will conduct. And you're spot on with smart contracts of why sign all these complex papers to transfer ownership of a deed or prove that you own something when it can just be verified. And then transactions can just be facilitated without any middlemen or women touching anything, because it's just verified instantaneously. So did you get into NFTs early on then? I mean, because NFTs were around, in the mid-teens. Like, were you into that, or were you just like, hey, I just believe in crypto. I don't need profile pictures. I don't need to be part of projects. Did you dabble into NFTs at all?
I really did not until recently. There were a few projects, CryptoKitties comes to mind, which at the time, when those were announced, I was like, that's ridiculous. Like, it's so crazy. Like, why do I want a picture of a cat? And, but today, I'm still not a huge cat person, but, from a technology perspective, it's fascinating. Right. And I think it's a great example of what the technology can do. And whether you're talking CryptoKitties or like the Zed horses, right? You take two NFTs and they're virtual animals, and you breed them, and the offspring is a new NFT that's created by the platform, right? And I just, there's something about that that I think is really exciting. And I think in a gaming perspective, I know there's a lot of talk about, some people really don't like to discuss NFTs and gaming. But NFT games like Zed Run, I think it makes a ton of sense. And we've even seen things like Axie Infinity, right, where there's people in the Philippines that they can make more money playing that game than they do, than they can make at minimum wage jobs in that country. So I think we'll see that space accelerate quite a bit, whether it's play to earn or something else. I'm pretty bullish on what NFTs can do in the gaming space.
Yeah, I definitely, like, you think of like Grand Theft Auto is the most purchased video game of all time. And all the stuff that you buy in the game, all the time you spend in the game is only left in the game.
Yeah.
And I think that's where you think of like the evolution of gaming. Like everyone games. When my wife plays Clash of Clans and Candy Crush, my dad does Sudokus, like my mom does puzzles. Granted, I guess puzzles are not digital yet, so maybe the puzzles will get there. But you think about like all the different types of games that people spend time and spend money on, and it's like all that money is just like dumped into the game, and then it's just done.
Yeah.
And then you start thinking about, you can spend time and money in a game that can either generate more money to you, or could, if you're done playing, you can sell it, get your returns back, or transfer it from one game to another game. It's just like changing how people want to spend their time.
Yeah.
And
yeah, for sure. And I mean, there's certainly the level of investment, and when you buy something in a game and it's stuck there, like that's less than ideal. But I think all of us gamers, like we're used to it, right? But as we get into this Web3 space and in the metaverse, one of the really hot topics of conversation is identity, right? When you go into the metaverse, you can be anything, right? Suddenly gender or age or race or like even your species doesn't matter, right? Like you can be a dolphin running around the metaverse if you want to. So I think we'll get to a point to where when you buy some of these, whether it's a skin or a game or an avatar in Decentraland or something else, the portability and being able to take your identity from one space into another space, I think that's really going to be a key component of Web3. And it's really powerful for, people that, they want to express themselves, through gaming or through the metaverse, and people really latch on to their identity. And, I think the ability to customize that and represent who you want to be in different spaces is really going to be important.
yeah, I think you probably see it firsthand from, I'm going to say, corporate America, or like large national brands, that they're trying to change their identity to the next generation of consumers, right? Like in the restaurant space, I've had brands approach me and be like, we want to build an NFT and we want to have a restaurant in the metaverse. I'm like, well, what are you going to do with that? It's like, okay, you want to be there, but it's like, well, what's the next step with that? How have you seen that evolution, and maybe also give like a brief background of like, what does VMLY&R do for national brands? And then how are you then taking that to the next level?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'll start with, what does VMLY&R do with our brands? And I mean, we're a digital agency and we create experiences. I mean, we do all of the marketing, print advertising, commercials on TV, build websites, mobile apps, you name it. But really, we are exceptional at creating experiences, right? And that's what, a lot of my job, I educate, inspire, and motivate, right? And the education part of that is really helping people understand, what are the new capabilities, right? Like, what can I do? What are the tools I've got to work with to create a really meaningful experience for our target audience? And, for the last couple of years anyway, I mean, that's involved mobile apps. It's been, voice experiences on any of your voice assistants around the house. would say them by name, but they'd start talking back to me right now. So, creating those experiences is where we focus a lot of our time. And, like I mentioned with Web3, now with blockchain, particularly, we have this whole new tool set, right? And a level of personalization that will carry forward, from one experience to another, one portal into the metaverse to another portal. So yeah, that's taking a lot of our time right now. It's exciting.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's so fascinating that we've like hosted people on the show that are, working on building in this space. Like they're building these NFT projects to build to communities, or like working in DeFi to try to help educate people how to like learn what crypto is, purchase crypto. But you're actually like, you're working with the brands that are trying to either talk to the people that are building and buying these NFT projects, and the people that are starting to immerse themselves and educate themselves on like financial literacy of like, okay, what is Bitcoin? What is Ethereum? What are blockchains? How do I purchase? So you have this, you almost have like the future consumer in the hand. Like you take your brands and you have them and you're walking them to the future. How do you, how do you see the evolution of this happening? I mean, does there need to be a wave of businesses that they all commit to this, and then it's like once enough people commit to it, then the wave already crashes? Or how do you see this? Like, I mean, you can see all the brands you work with, and it's like you're pushing them, you get ideas, you're like, okay, you're thinking about it, but not the right way. How does this like fully become immersive across the industry?
Yeah, I think that wave is probably it's forming now, maybe a little bit beyond forming. Like I mentioned, we're already seeing brands get into this space. And where we're at with our clients, and you kind of touched on this, it's helping educate people with, what is it? Because it's pretty complex, right? I mean, there's the blockchain layer, there's cryptocurrency, there's, you've got to have a wallet, do you need NFTs or not NFTs? And there's just a lot of, and it's all very tech heavy, right? There's all of these elements that come together to enable these experiences. So part of what we're doing is helping to educate our clients on, what is this space? What is the metaverse? What is an NFT? And then what could it be for their brands? And probably I'll say, as it relates to my job, one of the most important roles is, we apply the design thinking principles to how we approach innovation with our clients. And really at the core of design thinking is, that focus on the consumer. What does this mean for the consumer? And how do they want to be interacted with, right? So there's been a lot of conversations recently that sound like marketing 101. Who do you want to reach? Who is that consumer? Because there's so many levers that we can turn to dial in and focus on a specific consumer, that really we've got to go back to the core of marketing and determine who do we want to reach, and what is the message that we want to reach them with. But it's, with Web3, it gets really exciting because now we've got additional considerations that used to come a little bit later in the life cycle, but now, we have to start thinking about things much earlier, like what's the brand tone and voice, right? Because your brand can literally be talking to and interacting with their customers. So there's a lot of complexity, and we have to be very strategic when we approach consumers in this Web3 space. As I mentioned, a lot of these spaces have grown out of the gaming space, right? Gaming ecosystems. And we've seen what happens when brands try to reach out to people in gaming, right? When it goes wrong, it goes horribly wrong, right? And the last thing you want is for your brand or one of our clients to become a meme, right? So we've got to find that authentic way in and really figure out who is the target customer, what's the value that we're bringing to them. We have to bring value. If a brand doesn't have value, I mean, they need to reassess their strategy, right out of the gate. But getting into the Web3 space, it's really important to bring value into that ecosystem and really have something to offer to those consumers.
So spot on. I think the authenticity, maybe it's just this next generation of consumers, like the generation below me. It's like if you're marketed to in an inauthentic way, whether you're in like a decentralized or centralized world, it's like authenticity and like is one of the like first barriers that you have to pass in order to reach a consumer. How are you staying up on like understanding like what's next? Like this, it moves like the decentralized space. Like you jump into a Discord channel and there could be 10,000, 20,000 people. You're in a voice chat and there's 1,000 people there. Like, how do you stay up on the research of like, what is next and what is coming? Like, where do you spend your time doing your research?
Yeah, for sure. So before I get to the research, I will say back on the authenticity piece, that's one of the tougher parts of my job. I absolutely love what I do. I wouldn't want to be doing anything else. But one of the tough parts of my job is having to call out the bad ideas. And I see bad ideas every day, it seems like. And brands that want to jump into a gaming space and just like bam, set up shop and be like, here's my brand, come check us out, and I'm like, whoa, time out, hold on. You got to ease your way into this, particularly for brands that are not endemic to the gaming ecosystem, right? Like you can't just show up as a CPG brand and be like, hey, all right, we're in the metaverse, come check us out. Like it's either going to be crickets or people are just going to roast you. So anyway, I wanted to touch on that with the authenticity. It's paramount that when brands get into this space, they've really got to have a good reason to be there and bring value. Okay, what was your question again?
Yeah, I just thinking, how do you stay up with the trends? I mean, you saw Bitcoin in 2013, you saw the rise of CryptoKitties, you've seen the rise of all these NFT projects, you start seeing people building in the metaverse. Like, how do you understand yourself, like what is really next and what is current?
Honestly, I'm just a nerd like that. Like this is my space. Like I enjoy this. I have always, even going back to the patent on the mobile hotspot, right? Like I enjoy being kind of at the forefront of technology. And, I attend events like, Google's Google I/O, right? And Apple WWDC and like all of these tech events. I understand code. I went to college to learn to write code. I do not write code anymore, but I understand it, right? So I know what the tools are that we've got to work with. And, being able to connect those dots is something that I've just, I don't know. I like to live in this space kind of at the forefront of technology and then figure out, when we start seeing consumer adoption align with the trajectory of some of the technology, that's when it really starts to get exciting. And, that's why I got into Bitcoin back in 2013, just really wanted to get in and explore it for myself. I had a fantastic opportunity come up, was working on some other projects at VMLY&R, and I had an opportunity to start working on all of our gaming and esports initiatives. And I'm a gamer. Like I grew up a gamer, like my parents got me my NES in 1985, like when it was brand new, and I've just always been a gamer. So, this ecosystem, everything from Discord, like I've been setting up Discord servers for several years now, a lot of years, I guess, and I don't know, it's not something that, I had to pick up for work. It's, I'm just fortunate that my professional career has kind of merged and aligned with my personal interests.
That, yeah, when your job is your hobby, you never work a day in your life. You've seen so obviously you love gaming. We've talked about how NFTs will be part of, like, gaming will be part of NFTs as part of the future. How do you see those worlds like eventually coming together?
Yeah. we kind of touched on some of this. I think play to earn games. I think there's some really interesting opportunities, and I think we'll see that space evolve. Um, you mentioned Grand Theft Auto, right? I think it's not hard to come up with a list of ideas with current games and how might NFTs integrate with those. And I guess I see things evolving in a way that really makes sense for the gaming community, right? And I think as a gamer, it can be really fun and exciting if NFTs are done properly. I've got some peers in the industry, in the gaming industry, that they hate the term NFT. They don't even want to talk about it. And for those haters that are out there, I think they're looking at NFTs as pictures of monkeys, right? And they see NFTs for what they are today, and they're not really thinking creatively about what can we do with NFTs? Like, what can we make these? How can NFTs make my game better, right? If they're building games, right? Or if they're just a gamer, like, how might NFTs make my gaming experience more exciting, or or profitable, or how might I share things with friends in games that I cannot do today? I don't know. There's a whole list of how might we questions that we would typically throw into a design thinking conversation, and lots of opportunity, just tons of opportunity in this space.
Yeah, I think I just keeps going back to utility. It's like we've existed in like websites, we've existed in these video games, and then all of a sudden it's like there's a new way to transfer like items, transfer access, transfer the ability to do something that's it's like you're almost unlocking. And that's where I think I kind of get the understanding of where metaverse can go,
Yeah.
because I'm sometimes sit here and I see the people put on Oculuses and I'm like, oh man, I'm one of those people that's like, I'm never going to do that. I'm sure I'm going to do it at some point because I just have never experienced it. So it's you just keep thinking of, again, it kind of goes back to like VMLY&R's purpose, like build unique consumer experiences. This all then eventually leads to experience, right? Like all of this is
Yeah, yeah.
leading to something.
Yeah, absolutely. And utility, I mean, in 2022 and beyond, utility and NFTs have to go hand in hand, right? Last year, 2021 and before, you could launch NFTs that were standalone images, right? Profile pictures of apes or what have you. That time has come and gone, right? I even had my own AI generated, collection of NFTs that a good friend of mine, he's the developer. He like built it and we collaborated on it. I guess I was more of the creative lead on that. He was the tech lead. But we had that ready to launch in December, and it just, we held off. It didn't feel right because there's no utility, right? I'd like to find something to tie those NFTs to some kind of utility, like if you own that NFT, what does that then unlock for you? And setting my project aside, again, I think that's really paramount in 2022 and beyond, as we start looking at how the NFT space is evolving. You see things like Gary Vee launched the Fly Fish Club, right? Where if you own the NFT, then you can get into that private club. That's pretty cool. I like that. I think there was an automotive company last week, maybe the week before, and they are now tracking vehicle service history on the blockchain. So your service record is basically now an NFT that gets updated each time you bring your vehicle in for service. I wish I would have documented that. That's something we pitched a client 3 or 4 years ago, again, every time I said the word blockchain, what people heard was Bitcoin. So I think we're starting to get beyond that, but yeah, including some kind of utility in the NFTs, I think is important. There will still be art NFTs. I'm working with our local museum here in Kansas City, and they're really excited, starting to get excited. There's, one set of people that's really excited, another set that's, I'll say, they're learning. And for the art community, I think there are some really interesting opportunities to just, there doesn't have to necessarily be utility. Maybe those NFTs, maybe they represent a certain membership status with the museum, right? Or they get you access into special events. But so that might be, the art community might, have a free pass on creating NFTs that truly are art and don't have to have utility. But from a brand perspective, you've got to include something like owning that NFT has to unlock something for you.
So what NFT projects or what NFTs are you currently a part of, or that you currently hold?
NFTs that I hold, so I mentioned the Zed horses. I do have a horse, digital horse. Again, I think that the gaming aspect of that is really exciting. So haven't got into any horse breeding just yet, but that is something we actually talked about that with a few of us on our team at the office. Maybe we pull some Ethereum together and buy a horse and start breeding horses. So that space is fun. Quite a few of us at the office got into NBA Top Shots last year. Gosh, was that, maybe it was 2020 when those launched, but there were a few guys on our team that got in really early. And so that's been fun to participate in that. And I think they've gamified that experience pretty well. And then recently they also Dapper Labs launched NFL All Day, right? So similar kind of thing where it's, digital moments, a 15-ish second clip of a NFL highlight. So that's been pretty cool to see that launch and take off. But other than that, I've dabbled in a few. I did end up purchasing a CryptoKitty as well, just because I felt obligated, and they're pretty inexpensive. So there's one of those in my wallet. There is another really interesting project. It's another generative collection, and it's called Snarky Sharks. And what I really like about that one is, they're raising funds to, tackle some of the challenges with our ocean, and clean up the ocean and just preserve some of that marine life. So, they're kind of in their roadmap where they're rolling out some new features and offering benefits to NFT holders of that collection. So that one's really cool.
Yeah, again, just unique utility, community impact. Obviously the NBA Top Shot and the NFL moments like that. That is people that are just getting into NFTs for the first time. It's like digital moments. Everyone collected Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh or some type of physical card when you were growing up. People still do collect, physical cards, and there's the rarity. There's the 1/1, the 1/10. It's like, okay, that's the most basic example of NFTs, is just having that exact physical copy. All right, Jeff.
On that note, just another kind of looking forward, and this is something that I've talked about this model in conversations with people previously, but I think it's becoming real now finally. But with music, right? Like, I did buy the Kings of Leon album drop that came out as an NFT, and I feel like in the music space, if someone, whomever owns the rights to all the music that's recorded at Prince's Paisley Park, right? If there's enough content there, which I'm sure there probably is, if they could compile, an album of unreleased Prince music and drop it as a set of 10,000 NFTs, like something like that would break the internet. Like that would be just completely insane. But so I mentioned we're finally starting to see some progress in that space. Like we've seen in the past couple of weeks, Snoop Dogg bought Death Row Records, and he wants to make that the first major label in the metaverse and start dropping NFTs. And that's exciting. That's really exciting because he's going to have the reach. So he's got the power now by owning the label. He's got the reach through his fan base, and he can do whatever he wants with that music now, right? And with new tracks and going into the metaverse and just releasing content as NFTs. He can, make change throughout the music industry, right? I think other major labels will have to react to what he does in this space. So I'm really excited to see what happens there and kind of where he goes with dropping music as NFTs.
Yeah, I mean, it takes one, right? Coachella making their tickets now NFTs, and then you're getting life memberships. You think about the entertainment industry it's going to go through a whole nother evolution. And I think that would be really awesome to see what he does with the future with there. Well, Jeff, before we close, are there any other final thoughts or parting words you'd have? Appreciate you jumping on today.
I mean, yeah, final thoughts are, we're early, right? I mean, sure, so crypto's been around, for not quite a decade. Well, I guess maybe a little bit over a decade. NFTs have been around for a little while, but we're really just starting to see adoption and the utility of leveraging the blockchain to create NFTs. Like, people are finally excited about it. And we're seeing some real utility in the form of NFTs. And now I think, it's going to evolve even further as those NFTs start to unlock additional utility. So I'm going to continue to do my best to keep our brand clients educated on, what are the latest developments in the space and what does that mean for them, and how can they reach their clients, their customers in the space. And do so in a way that's meaningful and provides value to them. And I'm excited as well as a consumer and an advocate of NFTs and crypto, and it's just an exciting time to see these industries really taking off and seeing more mass adoption.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. This is so early. Like, it's not too late to get involved, do your research, learn, and just start Google searching, going on Twitter. Like, it's never too early. We're early on, like, start learning.
And so we're early, and I mentioned this previously, but don't look at NFTs as only as what they are today, right? What can they be in the future? What can you do with smart contracts and code and and make it interesting for your company, for your brand, for your consumers. The possibilities are endless. So I think the next couple of years are really going to be exciting.
Awesome. Well, Jeff, how can people follow you? If people want to learn more, where can they follow you at?
Yeah, for sure. Hit me up on Twitter's an easy way to find me, at Jeff Danley. Or LinkedIn. You can get out there and do some social media stalking. I'm pretty much on all the platforms, but work stuff, hit me up on those. Gamer tag on most platforms is the Danley. So I don't know, jump into a game of Call of Duty with me, or hit me up on Discord or whatever.
Awesome. Well, like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content today with Jeff. We appreciate you having on, and have a good one.
All right. Peace.